Welcome back, my friends, to the D-Rate the Hate podcast. I am your host, Wilk of WilksWorld.com, and I am so incredibly grateful that you are taking the time to join me for another powerful DTH episode. Friends, at the D-Rate the Hate podcast, it's all about bettering the world one attitude at a time. See, we did not create the hate, but with your help, we can derate the hate. That all starts with gratitude and personal accountability. We cannot control everything that happens to us in life, but we can control how we react to it. How we act, how we react, no matter what happens to us, how we react to it makes the difference. Friends, there is only one good thing about a bad attitude, and that is that we have the ability as individuals to change it. Here on the DTH podcast, we strive to bring you great guests and provide tools to do just that. Please be sure to share it with your friends. Subscribe if you haven't done so. Ratings and feedback are always greatly appreciated. And with that, let's get to this week's episode. Putting principles over politics. Now, it sounds great on paper, but you might ask yourself, how do we make that happen? There are so many times now when people will not even have a conversation with somebody because they differ with that person politically. The false perceptions many have about people who have beliefs contrary to their own stand in the way of so much good that could be happening. It's amazing to me, my friends, that we have allowed this polarization, this tribalization, the toxicity out there that a relatively small portion of our population tries to perpetuate. We allow that to stand in the way of all the good that could be happening. It was in a recent conversation I had with my friend John Wood on the D-Rate the Hate podcast that he said, polarization is the one problem that ensures that all other problems will not be solved. Polarization is the issue of our time, my friend. We need to accentuate the voices that are out there trying to make things better. My friend and guest this week on the D-Rate the Hate podcast, Jefferson Shupe, wrote a great novel on principles over politics. It's a fictional account of all the expected tensions after a racial tragedy. A young black man was shot by police in a college town in Texas. While this story is fiction, my friends, so much of it mimics what's happening in our country today. When I had my conversation with Jefferson, I had not yet read the book, but I'm just now wrapping it up, and it's certainly one, if you're interested in depolarization, if you're interested in bridging the divide, in finding common ground with people who have opinions contrary to your own, this is definitely a novel that you're going to want to check out. Just a great book that you can find on Kindle, Amazon, Audible. So many places you can find this book by my friend Jefferson Shupe. Please take the time to check out this great conversation and then be sure to share it with your friends. Here we go. Jefferson Shupe, thank you for joining me on the D-Rate the Hate podcast, my friend. It's very good to see you today. Thank you for taking the time.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm excited, and the more I learn about you and what this podcast is about and what I've listened to, it's right in line with my passion. So this is awesome.
Thank you so much, man. Like I said, thank you so much for taking the time, and I've been following your work for a little while now. I've been checking out the reviews on your book, The Bathwater Brigade, and I've just this book is so in line with so many of the things that we talk about here on the D-Rate the Hate podcast. And then obviously another one of my great passions, what I do a lot of work with, is the organization Braver Angels, and their thing is depolarization and trying to bridge the divide between people of differing mindsets and things. So your book, The Bathwater Brigade, really stood out. Looking forward to reading it. Unfortunately, I haven't had the time to read it yet, but looking forward to reading that book. So Jefferson, let's get into this. Let's talk about the book, The Bathwater Brigade. And for the DTH listeners that may not be familiar with you, let's just briefly talk about who you are and then dive right into The Bathwater Brigade. What is this book about?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm a dad of 4 kids, married, and so basically you could say I went through life kind of all wrong. And if you're involved with Bravery Angels or know much about it, it's kind of along those lines. I would, argue with people. I was so confident I was right, and I didn't end up changing anyone's mind ever, it seemed like. And it just kind of backfired, and I would be proven wrong a lot, and it's hard to handle that because of how I positioned myself, and I'd lose all credibility. And anyway, it's just kind of, I got caught up with the toxic part of discussing politics and especially political related things. And after a while, I just realized I had to do something different. So I sort of went on a journey, I guess you could say, in my young adult life. And over a number of years, I collected a lot of tools and learned a lot of things. I flipped my mindset to genuine curiosity, and it changed my life. And so I wanted the same thing for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
Their teenage years. Actually, we've got 2 graduated now, and even though they've been around me, and I hope that a lot of who I am kind of rubbed off on them. But
typically does.
Yeah. I wanted to, kind of formally make sure they understood what I learned and what had been so beneficial to me. So I wrote this book. It started as a nonfiction book, and I got done reading it or writing, and I thought, there's no teen that's going to want to read a nonfiction book about this topic. And so I kind of scrapped that and had the idea to write a fiction one.
Nice. Yeah. So a couple of things that you said there, Jefferson, really stood out to me because, when you talked about your certainty on certain topics and then coming to the realization that you weren't correct in that certainty, and how it messed up your credibility, right? Or put a dent in your credibility. Oftentimes we find that, right? We find certainty often becomes the enemy of credibility because we're so certain about something that we're end up coming to the realization we're wrong about. And if you're anything like me, I've got a very similar I have very similar memories to that. I can relate so closely to that of different things throughout my early adult life where I was absolutely certain I was right about something, and I fought for that. I fought for that stance I had on that particular thing, and whatever the thing may have been. And then I come to the realization that I'm wrong, and then now I'm like, I look like such an ass. But I mean, and if you're anything like me, Jefferson, I don't like looking like that. I try to be, and I even find it happening today. I mean, I'm not immune to it even at this point in my life, I'm not immune to that. But I am somebody who strives in every way, every day, to not do that anymore. So the journey that you were on and went through to get to the point where you're at now is such an important journey, and it's something that I think everybody needs to really take a look at, because we see it every day online. If it's on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, I don't care which social media platform. I see people every day who are absolutely certain that their stance on a particular topic is correct. But I can look at it and I'm like, they're so focused on the fact that they want to be right that they aren't looking anywhere around them to see whether all of those people that disagree with them may have a point, may have some noble way of thinking a different way. It's ugly. And then you take your kids and you bring your kids into it. One thing I ask people a lot of times when they're spewing this toxicity online is, would you be proud for your kids to see what you're saying right now? Would you be proud for the things that you are saying to other people online? Would you be proud if your child was doing that? Because like you said, did something that I do rub off on my kids? Obviously. I mean, I'm a parent, you're a parent. We know that the things that we do, we are the example by which those kids are going to grow. And so when we think about that, I had a conversation with a gentleman named Nathaniel Turner on my podcast a while back, and we talked about you will be known by the fruit that you bear. What do I want my kids to be like? What do I want my legacy to be? I don't want my kid or my kids to be spewing that toxicity. I don't want my kids to be so entrenched in their own certainty that they have the inability to see that other people might be right, or because somebody has a differing opinion, that now I have to hate them. I don't want that to be that legacy. So you said so much. I mean, this conversation is going so great so far because there is so much power in that one thing, Jefferson. Just the fact that you've gone on this journey and you wanted your kids to become what you were at and the journey never stops. Let's face it. But like me, I want my kids to be more like I am today than who I was 20 years ago. So let's talk about the Bathwater Brigade, Jefferson. So we talked to, you talk about this. It was going to be a nonfiction book about depolarization, but it took a turn, and you created this incredible story about depolarization and how people can have conversations with whom they disagree. People disagree, and it doesn't have to be all toxicity all the time. Talk about the book. And,
sure. And I didn't even start out wanting to write it myself necessarily. I looked a long time to find a book that would help me do this, but I think it was just too unique of a category. And it's interesting, the timing that I wrote it. I was not aware of Braver Angel. I mean, Braver Angels was kind of getting going at the same time. And later, after the fact, I learned about all these other, you might call them bridging movements. They're coming about around the same time. And so I wonder if it's just the state of the world where we were all kind of, it was reaching that critical mass where so many of us were realizing that there needed to be something to counterbalance. So it's I can tell you a little about the plot of the book. It's a kid that goes to college. He's a freshman, and it's a campus in Texas. And he shows up, and things are a little bit politically in political upheaval there. There was a racial tragedy. A black man was unarmed and shot by police, and things were getting pretty riled up there. There was a group that was pretty anti-police. They're pretty noisy and sometimes violent, and there was also a backlash to that. And this kid Jace, his best friend, is he's going in for law enforcement for school, and his whole family is in law enforcement. And so Jace is, he stands up for his friend whenever he can, and he's definitely on the pro law enforcement side. Well, they secretly go around and try to kind of disrupt the violent anti-police groups. And one of their operations goes wrong, and someone gets hurt. And in the end, Jace is forced to keep his scholarship with the school. He's forced to work alongside one of the anti-police people.
Interesting. That's pretty wild. So Jason and his friend are trying to kind of derail this, and I think the group in the book is called Zero Supremacy. So Zero Supremacy is the organization that is the I guess the anti-police, the anti. I'm gonna just take a shot in the dark here and say Zero Supremacy is probably somebody who focuses, or an organization who focuses a lot of their efforts on white supremacy or what they view as white supremacy. Is that right?
Yeah, along those lines, that is definitely part of it.
Okay. So they're trying to derail this organization that's doing things and things go wrong. And I'm just trying to grasp this.
Mm-hmm.
And then as part of some kind of punishment, Jace now has to work alongside somebody from that zero supremacy organization.
Yep, 40 hours of community service.
Interesting. Very cool. All
Yeah,
right.
just the two of them together.
All right. So enter
And
the Bathwater Brigade. What is the organization? Because now there's also another organization that you talk about in
mm-hmm.
the story, the actual Bathwater Brigade. What does the Bathwater Brigade do, Jefferson?
Yeah, the Bathwater Brigade is a fictional campus club. It's been around for decades. It's kind of a tradition at the school. And what they do is they meet, and it's funny because when I learned about Braver Angels, I thought, wait, this is a Bathwater Brigade meeting. This is awesome.
Nice.
Because they meet together and they pick a topic and they explore it. And they you could say debate, I guess, except here that there are no winners. When they win is when they explore as much as they can just to try to understand.
Yep.
And
Very similar to what we do with Braver Angels. Is not about changing minds. It's just about getting everybody a chance at the podium. Right? Everybody gets to speak a little bit. That's nice. Very cool.
Yeah, and there's not too many members that are meeting at the moment because zero supremacy is sort of hunting them down. They see them as being, you know, because they're willing to entertain ideas that are more broad than what zero supremacy thinks is acceptable. They go and try to disrupt their meetings, and so there's some disruption going on both sides there. And Jace he learns about it. They kind of meet in secret, and he starts to learn some of these concepts that we'll talk about. And that comes to a point of one reason I wrote the story in a novel form is because if somebody comes to you, if you're not kind of already in Brave Angels and sort of get it, if they come to you and say, hey, how would you like to learn about the opposite side of you, learn more about their side, at first I would have said, why would I want to do that? I know they're wrong, and why would I want to support them in any way, because they're taking this country in the wrong direction, and I just have no interest in that. That doesn't sound like a good idea.
Right.
But the advantage of having a novel that kind of takes you through that, and many of the characters at first think that same way. Some of the characters grow, and it sort of you sort of have the space to explore that, and through a story, through experiences, through discussion, and by the end, at least from the reviews and a lot of the readers I've talked to, I'm pleased to see that they seem to get it.
That's awesome. I mean, it seems like it very much mimics a lot of what's happening in everyday life right now. We as a society have become so polarized and so entrenched in our own ways of thinking that this tribalism is taking over for so many people, Jefferson, where I read something on Twitter this morning. In fact, I've still got it over on the screen here because it's something I'm going to probably write about or talk about or something. But this particular person, who I wouldn't give any credit to or call his name out, but he says, I simply cannot be friends with anyone who supports Trump or DeSantis for that matter. If you do, at very least, that means you're okay with racism, homophobia, misogyny, and fascism. And that is not okay with me. So that's what this person wrote on Twitter today. And they've got like 1.2 million followers. And I think it's unfortunate when somebody gets so entrenched and this is something that I recently spoke about with another author and behavioral economist, Daniel Stone. We talked about how people simply cannot see past somebody's. They cannot believe that somebody who would support XYZ candidate, whatever, could have any good intentions whatsoever. They automatically assume, because they feel that Trump or DeSantis or whoever is this evil entity, right? There's some kind of evil monster that because you support that evil monster, you too are an evil monster. And now I cannot even begin to be associated with you. I can't, So when you talk about your character development in the Bathwater Brigade and how these people are learning and some will change, some won't, and it really ties so closely into what I believe, Jefferson, is the issue of our time. It's what's so important and what I believe is going to be the issue of our time, and that's polarization. Because we don't get past this, politicized and polarized tribalization, we will fracture. And what you're doing with this book and what I try to do with this podcast and what the organization Braver Angels is trying to do on a much grander scale is we've got to work through that and get beyond that toxicity like this agitator on Twitter is doing. We have to be able to have those conversations. We've got to work with each other. Whether it's Jace and this fictional organization, Zero Supremacy and having to work together. Now this judge in the book and kind of aligning those two and making them work together kind of forces them to learn about each other, even if it's against their own will. But
and some when they hear about it or start reading it, they think they know how it's going to end, and they'll just they'll find a way to compromise, and that's not the case. The ending, it's my favorite part, and I get the most feedback about it. Everyone loves it.
We definitely don't want to give away the ending. I'm
nope.
so excited about learning more about this book for sure.
Yeah, I'll let you guys catch that on your own. But it's kind of a misconception that's out there is that, I guess kind of what I was saying earlier, why would I want to get with that person? Because no, I don't want to move in their direction. I don't want to give them an inch. I don't want to meet in the middle, because that's going in the wrong direction for me. But that's not really how it is, or it's not how it has to be, because you can still, I guess we can start here. If you learn about someone that is wrong, and even after really getting to know them, you can still think they're 100% wrong. In the past, when that's happened with me, I usually do change my mind a little bit about them, but let's say theoretically you're not convinced on anything, they're still 100% wrong. There's still a lot of value in getting to know them. Seeing ways to work with them on ways that aren't giving up any of your principles.
Right.
Because it's not about compromise necessarily. I mean, sometimes that can be a good strategy, but the biggest thing for me is common ground. At first, it's hard to see nowadays. It's almost like there's been a chasm that's opened up where common ground used to be, and everyone kind of was forced to separate and pick a side. And the chasm was widening, and the other side, they're so distant out there that they look ridiculous. They're like, what? I don't even understand. What are they saying? Why are they supporting that? And so we hurl things across the way, social media insults, and we have a tug of war across it to decide who gets to decide things in elections for a few years. And
exactly.
Anyway, Braver Angels is like, hey, let's build a bridge across here. Let's start meeting back here again. And there's, yeah, it's been life changing just standing there.
Yeah, well, and what you say, Jefferson, is so important because it's, when we think about, uh, there are certain topics, which we'll just go with the reds and the blues, or the rights and the lefts, or whatever phrase or descriptor that you want to use for whatever side that you're not on. There are so many things that we actually would agree on if we got beyond that wall built by the few things that we don't agree upon, right? And so when you talk about common ground, it's so important to think that all of us, every one of us, is a human being, and there's a certain humanity in all of us. And as soon as we allow one thing or a couple of things to now make us believe that other person is a monster, we have completely thrown out maybe the 60, 70, 80% of things that we would agree on. That common ground, those things that, that we all want. We want a good school for our kids. We want a safe place to sleep at night. We want to stay warm in the winter and cool in the summer. That, we want to have food in our bellies. We want to have a decent job that gives us some kind of purpose. There's so many things that if we focus on those few things that we just could never find common ground on, but that's all we focus on, we lose out on so much else, and this is the thing is we, and I've said it so many times, we have now, or so many people now, not me, and I'm certain, like, not you, but so many people have now taken their, whether it be their political beliefs, and made that part of their core identity.
Yeah.
And now if somebody disagrees with something from your political playbook, now that person is like attacking you. And and once you feel personally attacked, you feel like somebody is attacking your core identity, all that common ground gets completely ignored, and it's so sad. I mean, it's so sad. It's toxic, and then right back to where you and I were in our younger adult life, Jefferson, and now we're throwing out the toxicity, right? Because that's what it feels like. I mean, we've got to fight back. Yeah. Somebody just attacked my core identity. I've got to fight back.
Yeah,
and
right.
That's how this crap gets going, and it's ugly. It's so.
Yeah, you get into that fight or flight mode, and there was one time where I was at a extended family event, and one of the older people there started talking politics and was having opinions that I felt were wrong. They were the opposite side of me, and so I kind of jumped in, and I couldn't stop. I think I'd been seeing things on the news and online and just kind of bottling it up.
It's all getting bottled up. It's ready to blow.
Yeah. And both of us, I think, were in the same mode. And we went at it for like a half hour. And there were a lot of people in the room because it was like a big family thing. And conversation stopped. And it was kind of embarrassing, but we didn't know how to stop. Like, I couldn't let her have the last word, right? And same to me. And so anyway, that was actually one of the experiences where I thought, all right, there's got to be a better way.
Right. Yeah. And it sometimes it does take a situation like that to really step back, kind of going back to the initial part of our conversation, and how certainty can be the certainty can be the enemy of credibility, or certainty can be the downfall. Is you look back on that situation and say, why did I do that? What, because I'll tell you how I think about things sometimes, Jefferson, is especially in a situation like that, because I've been in situations like that, right? I've been in situations where I'm at some kind of gathering, or I'm in some kind of situation where so many things are going great and so many things are going right, and we're all having a good time, and then suddenly the conversation gets sidetracked into maybe politics or some kind of
Yeah.
some kind
Something
of
hot button.
contentious conversation of some kind, and then that argument starts, and then so that may have been 15, 20, 30 minute argument, but now everybody that was there is likely going to remember that and forget about all the great things that happened
Yeah, it's true.
in and it's like, is that the legacy I want my kids to see? Is that what I want to be my legacy? Do I want my kids or my wife or my friends to look at me and say, man, that guy could really derail a good time? That guy
Right.
could make a mess out of almost anything.
Uh-huh.
You know, so Jefferson, I think we've got so many things that we could talk about, and I love the idea of this book. I get more excited about it. The more I've checked out it, or the more I've learned about the book, and I think there's going to be a lot of value for people in because you're exactly right. When you talked about the idea of it being a nonfiction book and whatever. I mean, when people sit down and they think about polarization or how polarization might affect them or
Mhm.
whatever, and then to try and sit down and just read a textbook for all intents and purposes, right?
Yeah.
About depolarization, probably not going to get a lot of response, but when you talk about the development of the characters and the two groups in here, you've got the zero supremacy versus the bathwater brigade, and so you've got that dynamic there, and then you've got Jace and his friend that are involved in kind of trying to derail that supremacy or zero supremacy organization. It's exciting. It sounds like it's got a lot of meat to it, but more than that, it has that lesson or
Hmm.
that that theme to it that people can really take something away from, and probably really relate things that have happened in their own life to things that are happening within the book, and I think it's going to be a way that people can really find a way to implement that depolarization in their life. Look for those common ground things, and I think that what you said is incredibly important too. Is it's not like we have to change people in order to be around them. We just have to you know look for the common ground, and now don't focus on the things that we can agree upon, but
Hmm.
but let's try to see the humanity in other people and find the common ground in them and focus on that.
Yeah. Yeah, you actually hit on the name of the book and of the club, the Bathwater Brigade, a minute ago. And the reason why it's called that is because when we ignore, one side of the conversation, then we end up throwing the baby out with the bathwater as society.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
even if someone you believe is completely wrong on a lot of things, I've in my own experience, I found that they still have a perspective, they have experience that I haven't had, and they have something valuable to offer. And even though I usually don't like flip sides with them and go join them in all their causes and everything, I usually learn something valuable and refine my worldview, get that nuance, and it's been incredibly valuable.
No doubt, man. No, it's a very, very important lesson, and I think the more people begin to realize how toxicity is not going to bring us to a better place, they're going to have to find ways to interact and have those curious conversations with people of differing mindsets, and understand that we don't all have to walk lockstep in order to be a successful society. We have to
Hmm.
we have to look at others that believe things differently than we do, and realize they are not monsters. They are not evil. They're just different. And it doesn't mean we have to hate them. We don't have to oppose them. We don't have to fight them. We don't have to get into an argument and derail everybody else's good time. We can agree to disagree, or not even agree to disagree. We can just focus on what we do agree on, or focus on the common ground, and not always go to the things that we disagree on. So, Jefferson, it's been an incredible conversation, my friend. I'm looking forward to more. I think we've got so many things that we could talk about, and I look forward to the book. I look forward to following more of what you got going on, because I know that there's going to be plenty more from you. And ultimately, it's so good what you're doing, and I thank you for bettering the world in the way that you are.
Oh, thank you so much. I've enjoyed it.
Friends, if there's anything in this episode that provided exceptional value to you, please make sure to hit that share button. Share it with your friends, share it far and wide. And of course, if you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe right from our website so you can get the D-Rate the Hate podcast sent to your email inbox every week. So this is Wilk wrapping up for the week, saying get out there, be kind to one another, be grateful for everything that you've got, and remember, it's up to you to make each and every day the day that you want it to be. If there is something that you would like to share with me, you can catch me on most social media platforms, or you can email me directly, wilk@wilksworld.com. With that, my friends, I am going to back on out of here, and we will catch you next week. Take care.